I will begin the recording, adjust my mic closer to my face, and say 3, 2, 1, record.
Shit, I don't know what to say right now. I don't. I usually have something to say. And I'm just like, huh. I don't have anything to say right now.
In that case, allow me to begin with something we should be doing on a regular basis, but don't. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fucking amazing podcast, or for short, FAPcast. I am one half of the podcast and bullshit, and I'm joined by...
By the other 3/4, Simon Defmick. Hey, I'm fat.
A right old 1.5 person you are.
You know how like people claim in the Constitution it said back in the day black slaves were only considered 3/5 of a person. I'd be like 7/5.
8/5 of a person. The math doesn't hold up.
Oh jeez, what does that make Boogie? We shouldn't make fun of Boogie's weight. Did you hear he's at the end of July? It's either at the end of June or July. He's going in for gastric bypass. So he's like finally. I'm happy for him.
Now, which because I'm not completely familiar with all of these medical procedures. Which procedure is the gastric bypass? Is that the one where they staple your stomach?
It's either they staple your stomach or they just like literally cut out like a massive. They like cut out like 3/4 of it and then reconnect the rest to your intestines.
So it's the one where they essentially make your stomach smaller to force you to eat less.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
different types. There's stapling. There's the banding where they like just stretch like a rubber band around your stomach so that way it can't expand as much. And then there's the most effective one, which is the shrink it that cut out enough to make it basically like the size of a Coke can. And so that's all you can eat at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they put a band around it. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's doing the more permanent one, which he probably needs because he's like in his 40s and he's like nearly 600 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So that he definitely needs this. So good on him. Good on him. We should probably talk about this meta shit I was gonna say.
Yeah, I've been waiting for you to get into this thing you typed in here at the beginning of our episode.
Do you want to say what it is for
Because
our audience?
It sounds interesting. Oh, I see. They're all part of one thing. So you've written here, and I quote, "How to remember the Confederate States."
Yeah, because there's a lot of hubbub going on right now. Because well, okay, for the couple people who don't live in the States and don't really understand what this is all about, the Confederacy was a rebellion that happened in the 1860s. Well over 150 years ago, where I think it was like 7 states in the American Southeast seceded from the United States, and we went to war. And it was over states' rights, and that's absolutely true. But the rights that were mainly the concern was states' rights to enable individuals to own slaves. And like a lot of people who celebrate and who celebrate the Confederacy, they always call it was about states' rights, and then they exclude the fact that it was states' rights to allow people to own slaves. And this is something that really I feel has like plagued the United States ever since the end of it. Ever since the Confederacy lost and was reintegrated, was we never like actually like we never actually forced the South to accept their loss. Like we've allowed them to celebrate. We've basically allowed the South to celebrate it for like over 150 years. And well, times they are changing, and the mayor of New Orleans with has decided to take down monuments of various notable people of the Confederacy. Like
yes, I remember hearing about this on the news and on NPR. The mayor of New Orleans wanting to take down several statues.
Yeah, like basically people like Robert E. Lee and God, this you could tell I don't know that many noble people in Jefferson Davis, James Longstreet, Stonewall Jackson, shit like that. These are all people who governed or led the Confederacy or led their army, and they're being taken down. And now Baltimore is also considering removing their statues, and this has caused a lot of hullabaloo because you got people saying that this is an erasure of history. This is like trying to forget the Confederacy because it was a very bad time. Because again, it was about the war. To cut it down to its fucking core, the war was about the right to own slaves, the right to own other human beings. States' rights, all that shit. At the very core, it was about owning other human beings, and the United States wasn't for that, and these states wanted to continue, and that led to a fucking war. And the thing that I always thought was funny, especially when I was living like in Florida and stuff, is whenever the Civil War was mentioned, up here in like South Dakota and in the northern states, I'm pretty sure out there in California, we call it the Civil War. But when you go to the South, they call it the War of Northern Aggression. Because, yeah.
I did not know that.
They call it the War of Northern Aggression. Never mind the fact that it was the Confederacy, namely South Carolina, invading a U.S. Army fort first. Even though the Confederacy attacked first, they still call it the War of Northern Aggression. But, okay, what I want to compare how we handled, after the war was over, they lost, they surrendered, and they were reintegrated back into the United States. That was that tumultuous period in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s of reintegrating those states back into the United States. What happened, I compare a lot to the way Japan lost World War II. Yeah, they lost their status as an empire and stuff, but they still got to keep their emperor. A lot of the leaders and generals didn't really get in any trouble. Like, I know, especially like a lot of the horrible shit, like people who were involved in the rape of Nanking and Unit 731, they got off really lightly. And, especially like with the rape of Nanking, I know a lot of the people there, a lot of them didn't even serve any kind of jail time. And it's really fucking sad and disgusting, especially, because it's like Japan was humbled, but I don't think they really learned the lesson that they were wrong and how they conducted themselves in the war. And the similar thing happened with the Confederacy. Yeah, they were forced back in the United States, and they were forced to give up their right to own other human beings. but none of the leaders, none. Robert E. Lee was never tried and imprisoned. Stonewall Jackson was never tried and imprisoned. Neither was Jefferson Davis or James Longstreet. They went on to like become. Some of them went back into fucking politics. Some of them, I forgot which one in particular, but one like went on to be a congressman. Another one, went on to be a lawyer, and anybody who's been in the South knows how many fucking high schools are named Robert E. Lee High School. Not to mention all these statues.
Yes, many actually. I've been to a Robert E. Lee High School.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's been a celebration of the Confederacy for the past 150 years. And it's just, and it never really dawned on me until a few years ago when, the talk about the Confederate flag, the battle flag, because it's not, the flag that we know of as the Confederate flag wasn't the actual official flag of the Confederacy. It was more of their battle flag to distinguish itself from the American flag, because the actual Confederate flag looked very similar to the American flag, which is like, you're dumb. That was dumb. Don't do, that's the one thing you don't want to do is have your flag look like the enemy's flag. That leads to a lot of problems. So we never like buried the Confederacy. We didn't do like what Germany did with when Nazi Germany collapsed. They didn't like bury it. And now 150 years later, we're deciding, people are deciding to decide, why the fuck are we still doing this? Why are we still celebrating these people? And there's a YouTuber there's a YouTuber on YouTube called Colin Moriarty. He used to be part of Kind of Funny, and from there, before that, part of IGN. He left Kind of Funny because he made a silly dumb joke on National Women's Day, and so there's a lot of controversy, so he just left and made his own thing, which happens to actually be more popular than Kind of Funny, where he talks about politics and stuff, and he talks about things he's passionate about within U.S. history and U.S. politics. And one of his episodes, he just sort of laid it out what it is. The Confederacy was a bunch of fucking traitors. It was a rebellion. It was a traitorous rebellion, led by people who worked within the U.S. government, who basically rebelled against the United States. And it was like, I started to realize, it's like, why are these people celebrated when they're essentially traitors? Especially Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee is often like ranked up there as along with like, General Patton or Erwin Rommel. He's like listed as one of these great generals, and it's like, if anything, he's the worst fucking traitor, because he was a U.S. Army general before he became a Confederate Army general. He literally stabbed the United States in the back because he swore a fucking oath to the United States. And it's just like, if anything, he's the biggest fucking traitor out of all of them, because he swore an oath. And he broke that oath, and a lot of times in history, people like that, they were fucking executed and erased from history. And I'm not saying he should be erased from history, but let's just face facts. He's a fucking traitor. And it's like, seeing all these high schools named after him, and seeing all these statues, is like, wow, that's really fucked up. That's just so fucked up.
Why do we do that?
Yeah, why? Well, like in South Dakota, they don't do that. In California, they don't do that. But it's like, why are we letting people in the South do that? So cut to the chase, you're starting to see a lot of places in the South be like, hey, maybe we should stop celebrating these people. So they're starting to take down the statues. And people are in a big hoopla about it because it's like, oh, this is erasing history. You've got the conspiracy theory, Infowar, schmucks going all this is 1984, about this and stuff. Well, all you have to do is read these articles and realize they're not taking down this. They're not like doing like after the Soviet Union fell and after the Warsaw Pact fell, or where they were literally like just like strapping chains to the fucking statues and ripping them off with bulldozers and smashing the statues. No, they're like gently taking them off their pedestals, putting them in crates, and putting them in the storage. They're putting them in the storage temporarily until they can find museums to put them in. Okay. Now, a museum is where you put historical items. That's where you preserve history. You preserve history in museums so people can come and look at it and read about it and learn from it. That's the purpose of a museum. These statues are not being removed to censor history or to remove history. It's being what this is doing is it's stopping the celebration of the Confederacy and but still reminding us of the Confederacy. It's letting us remember the Confederacy. And that's how I feel. It's like, I'm totally fine if they were like taking down these statues and destroying them. I totally be on their side. That's fucked up. Don't do that. That's censorship. That's erasing history. Fucking don't do that. Putting them in museums is the perfect way to handle this. We shouldn't forget these traitors. We should remember them. We should remember this time in history. So maybe we don't fucking repeat it. And I've like tried to talk to people about this. I've tried to say like, look, calm the fuck down. This isn't 1984. We're not removing them from history. We're putting them where they belong, in a museum, so they can be remembered and studied and learned from, not be celebrated. Stop fucking celebrating this shit. You lost. You fucking lost. Deal with it. You fucking lost. Now we come to the other side, because that was more the, because I like to maintain a balance. That was the right wing side freaking out. Now we're gonna hop across over to the left and see how the left is being really dumb about this. A museum got a lot of shit and hoopla over displaying the Confederate flag within the museum. And now, because of all the controversy, the museum has decided, well, if we're forced to remove the Confederate flag from all of our displays, we can't do our job properly of conveying this history. And so they're closing down. This museum is shutting down. And if anything, this is where people have a right to be angry, because this is, I feel this is actual censorship, because, this is an actual place that holds history, that preserves history, being forced to erase history. And I think this is just as wrong. I can't really think of an example right now. A similar example, but this is the other side. We're swinging the pendulum to the other side, and if you want to get angry about something, this is where I feel you're totally justified in getting angry. So yeah, this is my meta shit. This is what I wanted to talk about for my meta shit, my real life shit. So that's what I had to say about it. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this in bullshit?
Are you sure that That it's not that there isn't a possibility that it's just someone who owns a museum throwing a temper tantrum.
Oh, over being criticized.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would be a thought that I would have.
yeah, because they were criticized for having the flag, but they weren't like explicitly told. They removed the flag themselves and then closed down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very big possibility that is the museum owners doing a temper tantrum. But I think my point remains in that a museum is a place of history, and I think that they should be allowed to have stuff like this, even if it's a horrible side of history. I mean, this. Okay, I have an example, and this is probably a very extreme example, but I think it could be just as valid. This would be like trying to censor certain parts of the Auschwitz Memorial and Museum, I feel. Because that was fucking horror. That was a horrible time in both in German, European, and Jewish history, and you go there, and it's a very sad and horrible place. That is not a you don't go to Auschwitz or Treblinka for a good time. You go there to remember the horrors of World War II and of the Nazi Party. You go there to remember why we fought those wars. And I think that's the same case for a Confederate museum. You go there, you don't go there to celebrate the Confederacy. You go there to remember why the Confederacy was wrong and why we chose to remove it from history and why we chose to stop that path they were going down of thinking it was okay to own other human beings. And I think that the Confederate flag is an integral part of that history, and it should not be ignored. But yeah, I totally believe that there is a very good possibility that the museum is just holding a temper tantrum. You know. But yeah, that's a distinct possibility. What else do you think about that? Or about any of this shit?
I recall a long time ago going on a trip with the Boy Scouts during let's see, would have been 2006, I think. 2006, 2007 World Boy Scout Jamboree, which at that time was held on a military base.
Yeah, in like North Carolina or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
before arriving at the military base for a full week of camping and having a grand old time, we spent a week touring various areas along the East Coast. And one of the things we actually did was we went inside and took a tour of Robert E. Lee's house, which was a very interesting tour. But 16-year-old me at that time didn't even fucking know who Robert E. Lee was.
Yeah, that was the same thing when I went to the Department of Defense school and also school up in South Dakota. They didn't really talk about Robert E. Lee or that's why I don't remember that's why I don't know any of the names. I had to look all that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
But no, I remember going there, and it was this fabulous estate, an absolutely gorgeous locale. And we took a tour through his slave quarters, and that was an interesting experience. Took a tour through his entire house, got to see his kitchen. And it was just very interesting, and I don't think it wasn't for a couple of years that I actually learned who like Robert E. Lee was, and then it hit me, and I was like, oh my god, dude, I stood in his house.
Yeah, that was similar with my experience because I remember with my experience in going to Auschwitz because I went there as a very little kid the first time. And I didn't realize till years later. I was like literally standing like in the showers where thousands and thousands of Jews and Russian soldiers and homosexuals and mentally ill people fucking died because we stood in the showers and we looked at the nozzles, and it was just like it didn't really dawn on me right then, but it just hit me like years later. I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, a few years ago, my mother and sister and father took a trip to Germany. Um, well, a trip all across Europe, actually. At the time, I was working full time, so I didn't want to go because I wanted to work instead, and I didn't have I didn't get paid time off at that job, so I didn't really want to take a vacation. But I remember that they told me that when they came back, that because they had done the whole tour of Auschwitz, and I remember that when they came back, my sister was like, "Man, that place. If there's ever a if there were ever a place on this earth that would be haunted, it would be fucking Auschwitz." She's like, "I never want to go back there again.
Yeah.
I never want to see that place again. The place scared the shit out of me."
Yeah, that's the second time I went there, I had a better understanding because I was older and I had a better understanding of it, and I mean, it's a place I say everybody should go to because it's literally one of the most horrible places on this planet. In recent, and not to downplay other areas because huge slaughters and massacres have happened in many parts of the world, but
And not to downplay any other particular camps in Germany either, like Birkenau.
yes, but in recent memory, that is easily one of the most horrible places on this planet.
But I think my sister really hit it on the head when she said, yeah, if there were ever to be, because I mean, none of the people in my family believe in supernatural things at all, but what she said was, if there were ever a place that would be haunted on Earth, it would be this place.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Man, we really brought it down. Holy shit.
So that was not actually supposed to be the main topic for our episode.
Yeah. I guess to sum it up, remember the Confederacy, don't celebrate it. That's all. That's if you want to take one line from that is that. Remember, don't celebrate.
And I mean that goes for so many other things.
Yeah, that goes
for Americans in particular. I think that's the most notable thing. But there are other things like that I think that applies to.
Oh yeah, there's tons of other things. The Indian reservations, East Germany, the Soviet Union, Chairman Mao, fucking Japan.
Fucking Japan. Just remember, don't celebrate Japan.
Yes. They put titties on things.
They put titties on things, and it's wrong.
Yeah, we threw some nukes on them, and now they put titties on everything. That wasn't nice.
I apologize on your behalf.
Yes, please apologize on my behalf. So yeah, we got some main topics here.
Yeah, this week I'll be starting us off with our main topic, and this one doesn't really have anything to do with what we were just talking about. So switching gears.
Holy fuck, switching gears.
Switching gears to a completely different topic: tabletop RPGs.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh wait! Did you know that there's a tabletop RPG about the Holocaust?
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah. We both watch extra credits.
So for those who know me better than people who just follow me on Tumblr, many of you probably know that aside from liking the fact that Japan puts titties on everything, I'm also an avid fan of tabletop games, excluding Warhammer, because I don't have $1 billion. But I've been playing tabletop games for, oh, Jesus. I guess 15 years now. And you're literally going to title this podcast episode, "We Threw Some Nukes at Them," and then they put titties on everything. Spell titties correctly. It's Tiddies.
Yes.
Titties.
Yes. Titties. Titties!
And yeah, I've been playing tabletop games for a long time, and I started out in... Oh god, I started off with Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. Maybe it was second edition I started off with.
Oh jeez, you went hardcore.
They had
Holy
Thaco,
shit.
and I fucking hated it. Settled in for quite a while with 3.5, played around with Pathfinder, played around with all of the expansions that came with 3.5, including Star Wars D20, which is a fabulous system. It's broken as all fuck, but it is a lot of fun to play. And eventually settled permanently, as at least up until now, on really enjoying Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, and that saying that is going to basically
You're gonna anger a lot of people with that.
That's basically gonna wreck all credibility with anything I say, and I'm not going to bother having a discussion to justify that statement.
4th edition. Oh, how passe.
I will say I do really like 5th edition. It's just that I just happen to enjoy 4th edition more for a variety of reasons that are probably their own main topic that I'm not even going to bother talking about tonight. But one of the games I played a long time ago, like once or twice, was an old game called Blue Rose, and it was set in a system called True 20. And so I'm going to go into a big explanation of all this shit. This is for people who don't know anything about tabletop games or are only really familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. It's a little bit of history. There's a publishing company known as Green Ronin Publishing that started off their publishing career of original stuff, because they started off just doing publishing stuff of other people's material, but then they sort of gathered together some people to make a Green Ronin original system, and they came up with a game called Blue Rose, and a new tabletop system known as True 20. I'm not the biggest fan of True 20. I don't really like it, but Blue Rose, generally people hated that game for a variety of reasons. True 20 was... or not True 20, sorry. Blue Rose was originally designed and marketed as basically a tabletop game for gay people and women.
Okay.
And the driving narrative behind it was Dungeons and Dragons is a straight male dominated gaming system. And the tropes and things in it come from literature aimed at straight men, which is not untrue. That is true. Largely. A lot of the themes and tropes that go into Dungeons & Dragons come from literature that is generally aimed at a male audience. And in general, tabletop RPG games kind of are a male-dominated venue.
I won't disagree with that.
The way in which it was presented with Blue Rose made that sound like a hideously terrible thing. And Blue Rose was marketed as this new liberal-oriented, you can get the gays in it, and all the girls and shit, and it kind of flopped.
Well, can I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
I think what the problem with that narrative is that it implies that while D&D is obviously male focused, I won't argue that. That implies that it's exclusionary towards.
And it's not.
It really depends on the people playing
Yeah,
it.
some parts of the community definitely are exclusionary, but the system itself is not. It's just that the system itself is designed for a specific kind of player in mind. And that's not bad. You can do that with anything. Look at, how Japan does anime. They have shonen anime, and that's aimed at a specific kind of person. And that's fine. The idea behind the altruistic idea behind Blue Rose was, well, we got our shonen, now let's get a shoujo in here, and that's not a bad idea. It's just that the way it was presented did not really go well with.
I
with
will. I will say while the way they presented and marketed it was really stupid, I do love the idea of, hey, we have some issues with this thing. Let's go make our own thing.
Yeah, let's go make a game that will cater to the people who aren't catered to.
Yeah, and I'm totally for that. I'm totally for. It's like, oh, this thing isn't satisfying what I want. Let's go make a thing that will satisfy what we want. I am totally 100% for that.
Yeah. Now the first Blue Rose was a flop. It didn't sell very well. And in fact, ironically, the system that they invented for it, they went on to publish another book that was literally just the mechanics of the system, so that you could take that system and apply it to any other setting. And that actually sold much better because it wasn't tied to this stigmatized IP. Flash forward a few years, Green Ronin decides that they want to make a Dragon Age tabletop RPG, and they create a completely new system for it, known as the Age system, Adventure Game Engine, Age, for which they created the Dragon Age RPG. And this is not a D20 system. It's a system that involves the use of 3 6-sided die. And the idea behind that was it's really easy to get a D6. Anyone can find a 6-sided die anywhere. It's like the most common die in the world. And anyone can get 3 of them together and knock them together and make something out of that. So they sort of... I don't want to say they dumbed down, because they didn't. The system is actually very complex. But they did, make a simpler dice system so that it was easier for people to get into, and ended up being a great success. The Dragon Age tabletop game was very well received, largely by Dragon Age fans, of course. Tabletop fans weren't that hot about it, but tabletop fans and the tabletop fandom is kind of haughty, and they don't really like 6-sided dice systems. A lot of people don't like them because they view them as pedestrian. But, the game went over well, and they actually took the system that they had done for that game and made Fantasy Age, which is their own original setting with that system, and that has gone over very well. Actually, people really enjoyed that. And the reason for that is because it was made very, very public and popular by a particular internet fan favorite, Will Wheaton, who did a video series with a bunch of his voice actor friends, including Yuri Lowenthal. He did a video series called Titan's Grave, which was them playing through Titan's Grave, Ashes of Volcano, which is a pre-built campaign in the Fantasy Age system. You can actually go and see that. It's still there. It's on the Geek and Sundry YouTube channel, which at some point I'll probably talk about. It's actually a very interesting video series, even if you don't particularly like Will Wheaton, which I know a lot of people don't. I will say that he, while many people disagree with some of the things he may say on his own personal time, he is an excellent, excellent game master for that particular series. Anyways... They decided to bring Blue Rose back. This time, instead of it being in True 20, it's now in the D6-based Age system. And they kickstarted it. The Kickstarter was funded in about 2 days. I kickstarted it. Well, it's here now. It's finished. And the physical copies have not been shipped yet. They haven't finished printing them. Probably won't be finished printing for another month or so as of the recording of this podcast, but they do have the PDF version available. If you didn't back the Kickstarter, you can actually pre-order the physical copy and then get the PDF copy for an additional $5, or you can just buy the PDF copy for like $25 and get it now. So I actually have it, and I have read through it at this point. I've skimmed through the whole thing and then read the pertinent parts that were most interesting to me. And I've been through the whole system, and I've looked at how they've changed it from Fantasy Age, because it's actually its own system. They have modified the Fantasy Age system. It's a little different. They've added some mechanics, taken out some mechanics, and it is its own fully functional 3D6 system. And I have to say, having read through the player handbook, I actually really like it. It's phenomenal. I'm really enjoying the system. I actually sat down with a friend of mine who's been playing Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 ever since it first came out, as well as Pathfinder. He's a big tabletop gaming friend of mine. The both of us sat through and combed through this book, and basically he's a math-oriented kind of guy. He works in microbiology. And so I sort of enlisted his help to ask him, hey, can you help me find all the things that are fucking unbalanced and broken? And we found a couple things that were like, they didn't really think that one through. I would change that number, But nothing too glaring, and the systems itself that are in place here are really interesting. So I'm just sort of give a brief rundown of what Blue Rose in its modern form is, and why I like it so much. And feel free to chime in if you have anything. Blue Rose. Oh, no. Go ahead.
Sorry, breaking news from Japan. Somebody stole Grape Coon's waifu.
Oh dear.
That penguin's gonna be fucking pissed. If you don't know what we're talking about, get out from under a rock. So sorry to derail you.
That's okay. All right, so I'm not going to get in too much into the lore and stuff. If you want to learn about the world of Blue Rose, feel free to check out the player handbook. Most of the time when I play a tabletop game, we don't even use the world that's in the player handbook. Oftentimes we just make our own worlds. So, I'm not really that invested in the world that they put here. But the races and the culture, I think, is actually very, very interesting. So, basically, what Blue Rose is it is still that same liberal-focused kind of system that tries to bust the genre tropes that come with male-dominated RPG systems. Instead of being based on trying to mathematically mechanize into game format the works of J.R.R. Tolkien and Terry Brooks and Stephen King, this is a series that tries to create in game form things inspired by the works of Diane Duane and Tamora Pierce and whoever it was that wrote Dragon Riders of Perth that I can never remember their name.
Dragon Riders of Pern.
Yeah, Perth is a place in Australia, right?
Jeez, you're supposed to be the liberal here. Even I know the name.
I never read that book series, so look how much I know.
If it was made into a movie, it'd be like one of the best action-packed movies. It's like literally dragons on a planet.
But I was interested in the series because I had heard it in reference to being inspired by the works of Tamora Pierce. And I'm actually a huge Tamora Pierce fan. She is most famous for writing a series known as the Lioness series, which is about a fantasy world very much like what you would find in your average Tolkien-esque kind of setting. But the story was about that kingdom's very first female knight. and her struggles as a woman in a male-dominated society, etc., etc. She would go on to write a sequel series to that known as the Trickster series, which is actually my favorite book series of all time, period, about the lioness, the woman knight, her daughter becoming the spy master of a rival kingdom. Very phenomenal book series, lots of court intrigue. Absolutely my kind of thing. Like, if you ever played Dragon Age Inquisition and you did that portion of the game where you go to Orlais and it's just a court drama, that whole section as its own book, basically. Which is the kind of thing that I'm interested in. So, Blue Rose is a series that's focused less on combat in the traditional sense, and more on court intrigue, espionage, role-playing, and romance.
That reminds me a lot of oh fuck, I can't remember the name of the game. It was like this self-contained game where you were on a space station, and I think it might have been called Paranoia or something. And you had to, and the point of the game was to try to find the communist. And there was a lot, yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Let me try to find the name of it. That reminds me of that because it's like, because I played it once, and we had sort of a special house rule, where because you could, like, at any point in the game you could like pull people away and sort of talk to them and sort of make deals and treaties and stuff. And they sort of had like a house. It might have been a house rule. It might have actually been like a variation of the official rules that was like recognized. But you had to, before you could play, you had to bring a 12-pack of your favorite drink. And you had to drink throughout the game, so that way you would have to eventually have to pee, which meant you had to leave your spot at the table, and that meant that like people could like look at your shit or like inspire against you.
Could talk about you and spy on your shit. That's hilarious.
Yeah, let me try, because you're talking about like intrigue and stuff, and that's instantly reminded me of that game. Let me try to find the name of it.
But I'm going to the example I'm going to say is, if Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and systems like that are the part from Dragon Age Inquisition where you fight Corypheus, the main villain of the game, then Blue Rose is like that portion of Dragon Age Inquisition where you're trying to romance Josephine, and you do this whole series of quests to get her family reinstated as nobility in Orlais. That might be a bad example for people who haven't played Dragon Age Inquisition. Please go play that game. It's phenomenal. It's a really good game. But I'm going to give a read-through of part of the introduction to Blue Rose, because I think that while I feel they kind of say some things wrong, I like the way they describe what they had intended to do with Blue Rose this time around, as opposed to the previous iteration of Blue Rose, where they just sort of, poked at other game systems. In this section here titled, "What is Romantic Fantasy?" And I quote, "Blue Rose is a role-playing game about romantic fantasy, but what is that exactly? In the high fantasy quests of authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, or the larger-than-life swords and sorcery of Robert E. Howard, Fritz Leiber, and others, heroic loners or small groups of rebels, outcasts, or eccentrics perform great deeds and go on quests to obtain power and glory, or to protect the world from some dire threat. In the mid-1980s, a generation of new fantasy authors, including the likes of Diane Duane, Mercedes Lackey, Tamora Pierce, and many others, wrote fantasy novels different from any that had come before. The main characters in their novels occasionally started out as loners and outcasts before finding their place in society, generally as members of some prominent group or official organization that goes on exciting adventures to protect ordinary people from danger. Developing a sense of belonging and finding comrades are central features of these stories. Most of these novels are in series, and by the end of the first book, the main character has usually discovered a community where they belong. Many of the characters' subsequent adventures involve either becoming a more fully integrated member of this community or protecting the group from harm. Few of these novels contain elves, dwarves, or similar fantasy races, and may contain a few or no other humanoid species at all. Instead, humans share their world with one or more types of intelligent or semi-intelligent animals, sometimes with a few magical human subspecies. Some of the intelligent animals are simply bright psychic pets, while others are free-willed, powerful spirits with animal bodies. Romantic fantasy novels are often set in highly egalitarian societies where people's occupations and aspirations are not limited by fixed gender roles. In these books, cultures and individuals that are sexist or homophobic are often portrayed as ignorant or enemies to be vanquished. The heroes of romantic fantasy novels are usually environmentally conscious, protecting wilderness, etc. Attitudes about magic also differ in romantic fantasy novels. Instead of scholastic magus that you would find in things like Dungeons and Dragons, many characters have innate psychic or arcane powers as natural to them as sight and hearing. It goes on for a little bit more to just sort of detail the etc., finer points of what romantic fantasy is, but essentially it boils down to generally romantic fantasy is something that is more often than not written for either a female audience or a wide audience that includes many different kinds of people. And I think this foreword is a lot better written this time around than the promotional material they had.
it's less like
it's less preachy, is I guess what I'm gonna say. It's less preachy.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
No, I'm just skimming through. I'm just skimming through some information I have about the game. It's really fascinating. I actually kind of want to show this to Dan and Josh.
what I like about this is that sex, gender, and orientation are three very important things that are separate that you have to state in the game for mechanical reasons and also roleplay reasons. I like that. I'm going to go on here and just sort of explain one of the things that is unique about the world of Blue Rose, not the world itself, but the mechanics that drive the world behind the game. And this is something that you always have to consider when you're creating a game in the system, and I quote, "In both the Blue Rose game and in the world of Aldea, which is the world that Blue Rose takes place in, quote, race is essentially the same as species, referring to whether someone is human, Vata, Raiden, or so forth. There's only two humanoid species in the game, human and Vata. Vata are basically elves. And Raiden are basically animal companions. Cosmetic differences in appearances like skin color, facial features, hair and eye color, and so forth tend to be unnoteworthy. The Great Kingdom was tremendously cosmopolitan, bringing together people from all over the world, and the Empire of Thorns that succeeded it often forced people together out of need. Such that matters of mere appearance are unimportant for most people in the world of Blue Rose and the surrounding lands. As such, your character can have virtually any appearance or features you want. The various cultural backgrounds describe what humans native to that religion commonly look like, but there is no requirements to abide by this, nor is it particularly remarkable to the people living there. It's describing a world essentially in which racism isn't really a thing. At least where you can create your character. Racism is totally a thing in the areas of the world where your quests generally take you. The humanoid peoples of Aldea are capable of having offspring together, and as such, mixed heritage characters use the following rules. Which I won't outline here. I'll talk about that in a sec. So basically what I wanted to talk about here is the world and the sort of culture behind the game, which is generally a more liberal-focused kind of culture where racism, classism isn't necessarily a core feature of the lore. It's designed to be a core feature of what your game is meant to struggle against, which I think is very interesting. It's not something you generally see in pre-built campaigns. Of course, things like that always have been at the choice of your dungeon masters, but they're not something that's built into the game world generally, which is part of why I really like this system. Now I want to get into mechanics here. I'm not going to describe everything in mechanics. Actually, the system is very, very complex. But like I said before, it is definitely more narrative focused than combat focused. There is combat in the game, and you can do lots and lots and lots of combat. But the combat itself is largely simplified. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, especially Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, you don't have a lot of spells. Like, there isn't like a huge book with a list of spells that you can choose for your character. There are spells in the game, but it's generally like one for every couple of levels that you can get. You don't really get to choose. Combat is very pared down, and very simplified to make it so that combat is not the focus of the game, and primarily combat takes up a very small percentage of your play. What is complex in this system is the roleplay systems, the skill challenge systems. When you're having your party, go out and say go to the king and try and convince the king to do something. There's a lot more mechanical rules for the game that involve doing things like that than there is for doing things like swinging your sword and casting a spell. Most of the spells that are actually listed in the book have nothing to do with combat. They're entirely everything to do with you tricking people, or using ice magic to trip someone, using mind magic to produce hallucinations in someone, using sleep magic to put them to sleep in a non-combat setting, and so on and so forth. It's a very role-play oriented game. And that's part of why I like it, but I will say right off the bat right now, this is not going to be a game for everyone, because not everyone likes to roleplay. Some people, they just want to get into it, and they want to put a grid down, put the figures down, and have a go at combat. And for those people, Dungeons & Dragons 4 and 5 are literally made for them. And they're going to have way more fun playing those than they will with this one. People who are more interested in a narrative experience, people who are more interested in weaving a complex story rather than having fights, generally are going to like Blue Rose better than especially systems like Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, which had a huge focus on combat. The great thing about the mechanics of the system is that it's a 3d6 system, so you only need 3 dice, which is awesome, to do literally everything in the game. There are some rolls which require the use of a d3, but to do a d3, you just roll a d6 and cut the number in half, rounding down. So you literally, you don't need that giant bag of crazy dice that some people have never even seen before. You literally just need to take the dice out of your Yahtzee kit, and you're good to go. The Raiden race, which is a race of animals, I was looking through them, and we were starting off going through them because we were looking at the different. Each race has its own racial features and everything. And at first glance, the Raiden are stupidly overpowered, but then you have to remember that they're animals. So from a mechanical sense, they excel at combat. They're the combat carriers. You can have bears that are the fucking tanks. You can be ravens who are great at subterfuge, clawing out eyes and stuff like that. But then you have to remember that as part of the rules, Raiden characters can only do what the animals they're based on would otherwise be able to do. So, for example, if you made a parrot Raiden, you could talk, but you can't really swing a sword. You can fly, but you're kind of small. You make a bear Raiden, and you're the king of the fucking battlefield because you're a fucking bear. Bears can't talk, which means that all those narrative sections, you have to really be creative about what you're going to do when everyone else is talking. So it's definitely that race particularly is not a race I'd give to a beginner, just because they're hard to play in this setting by design, just because they're very overpowered. Shit, I'm getting off topic here. Level 20 is the maximum level, so it cuts off. There's no Paragon paths like they had in Dungeons and Dragons 4th and 5th edition. Basically, once you reach level 20, you were a god among men. There's a bunch of things you can do post that that are interesting, but generally the journey is getting to 20, not getting to 20 and then having a journey like it is with 4th edition. When you generate a character, you actually have to use tarot cards to determine their calling, fate, and destiny. Calling is the end goal of the character, so like say your character wants to become the king, that's your calling. Destiny is your character's the good parts of your character. Like your character's destiny is to be overtly kind and peaceful, or very giving and generous, etc. Fate is the parts of a character that are their vices. A drunkard, a drug addict, unbelievably nasty towards any particular kind of person or animal or whatever. There's a morality system called corruption, and this is where the game gets really liberal. The GM is allowed to decide when an action you've done is evil and punish you for doing that action by giving you corruption points, which do a variety of debuffs to you. Reaching a certain level of corruption basically kills your character. So there is a morality system in there that I know a lot of people are not really fond of, because it kind of forces the characters into a liberal vein of roleplay. Though at the same time, doling out corruption is up to the dungeon master. So if the dungeon master doesn't want to give out corruption willy-nilly, then, the game doesn't have to be that way. A lot of the problems that people have with this game are largely like, oh, well, this is kind of stupid. Why would I want to, do all this roleplay? And it's like, well, if your dungeon master doesn't do that, then you don't. A lot of problems I see people complaining about with this game are literally just like, well, then don't have your GM do that. There is a romance system that's basically the tabletop version of the romance system in Dragon Age, which is awesome. It's very funny. You have the option to romance characters. You can romance player characters, or you can romance NPCs, and raising your relationship intensity with them grants you bonuses. So basically, like, say you have two players who decide their characters are going to get married, so they have a relationship. They get bonuses to all of their skill rolls whenever they're doing something for each other. Which means so long as you can justify to your GM that your character is doing something for that character, the GM can give you a bonus to your rolls. So for example, say you're in combat and the character who your character is married to is being attacked, you can try and defend them, and you'll get bonuses to your defense rolls and stuff like that. It's a really interesting system. It's not like hideously complex, but it is actually more complicated than I'm making it sound.
So, like, is it like D&D 3.5 or D&D second edition? Like, how complicated are we talking here?
Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition complicated.
Oh, that's not bad.
So not terribly.
Yeah.
Not terribly.
As long as you're paying attention.
Yeah. God, there's another thing that I want to talk about. I can't remember now. The relationship system is death. Death is really funny. So when your character's HP falls to 0, they can't lose any more HP. This is not like Dungeons and Dragons where you can get into negative HP. It's just 0. When your character's health falls to 0, they are considered dying. And during combat, they are allowed to remain in the dying state for as many turns for a number of turns determined by whatever their constitution stat is. So like sea folk, which are the mermaid Raiden, they have the highest constitution in game. They're basically very hard to kill. But when your character is in a dying state in a combat situation, any enemy next to them or any enemy with a ranged weapon within range of them can do a coup de grace, which will instantly kill them. So while it is very easy to remain alive during combat when your health falls to 0, if your party lets the enemies get close to your character, they can instantly kill them. There is a rule in the game that is very strict. I'm going to read it here if I can find it. Let's see. Character cannot die unless an enemy deliberately takes a major action. Takes major action to coup de grace them. Where is it? Killing characters. Trying to find the.
As an aside, I kind of love how everybody's freaking out over this Japanese cryptid that I guess showed up in Metal Gear Solid 5. The Tsunoko.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally just a snake, a very, very fat snake that can talk, tell lies, and drink alcohol. It's a drunk lying snake that's very, very fat. And that's like a Japanese cryptid. Oh my god.
Here it is. Okay, so a dying character can take no actions but is allowed to talk. And there is a rule in the game that explicitly states when a character dies, the player is allowed to stop the game to allow their character a death monologue. which I think is fucking hilarious. You are allowed by the rules in the book to halt the game for 5 minutes to allow your character to, as it would in a romantic fantasy book, talk for 5 minutes before they die.
Oh my god. So can I just spend the entire time just like talking shit about everybody else?
Talking shit about everybody.
Like if you're the healer, if you're that's it. If you're just a healer. Like, okay, modification to that rule. The healer is the healer is the only one who can have the monologue when they die, because they deserve to have that monologue to say some shit about y'all.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I really like about the game is there is no experience. So, in especially Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which was hideously complex, there's this whole system for calculating how much experience the party gets, and then at what experience checkpoint they get a level up. And it's a very complicated table, and most of the time when I've played Dungeons & Dragons, the GM goes, no, I am not looking at that shit. I don't give a fucking flying fuck. You're gonna level up when I say, because I don't want to do all this math. In this game, there is no experience. You level up when the GM says you level up, and there are a set of very strict rules about when GMs are allowed to level characters up, that it's all based on narrative, basically. When the GM feels they have reached a certain kind of checkpoint, the GM is allowed to level the characters up. So there's no more, there's none of that really bizarre, reading through a table and then looking at a monster and going, this monster is worth 250 experience, okay, yeah, that, and I hated that about Dungeons & Dragons. And this game just sort of does away with that. There's a fatigue system where basically when you use spells, you gain fatigue. And if you don't rest, you continue to gain fatigue. And at level 4 fatigue, your character automatically dies. So
Oh wow.
you can't abuse magic in this game because magic in this game is really powerful. And me and my friend were going through it and we're like, wow, like some of these spells are fucking broken. Like there's a spell literally that lets you mind control during battle for like a ridiculously low difficulty check. And I was just like, that's really stupid. That's hella overpowered. Like, that allows you to look at an entire enemy's, like, list of stats, take all of their items, and then make them attack their friends. And then, like, I looked at the rules, and it was like, automatically gains level 1 fatigue. And I was like, oh. Because at level 1 fatigue, you get all these, like, debuffs to your, like, stats. And then if you reach level 4 fatigue, you die. I was like, oh, that's their balancing system to keep people from abusing magic, like for everything. That's hilarious. But other than that, like sorcery is largely like really broken. The last thing I want to touch on is just the basic D6 system itself. I'm actually really fascinated with this system. Blue Rose makes use of 3d6. You get 3 6-sided die. 2 have to be the same color, and 1 has to be a different color. The different colored one is considered your stunt die. So you were essentially rolling on a scale of 3 to 18, 18 being a critical success, 3 being a critical failure, though there aren't any critical failures or successes in this game. There's no crits actually at all. Like in Dungeons & Dragons, you roll a 20, that's a critical. In Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, it was you doubled your damage. You did max damage plus modifiers or whatever. In this game, there's no benefit to rolling a 666 other than that, you beat whatever. Like, there's nothing that can be beaten, that can beat that. Instead, what they use is a system of doubles, where if 2 of your die... if 2 or more of your die are reading the same number, then the off-colored die, whatever the number of the off-colored die is added to a whole other mechanic known as stunt points. So say you have your 3 die, and you roll 2 6s on your white die and a 3 on your green die, or whatever your colors are. So that's 663 is 15, so you roll a 15 against whatever you're checking like you would normally, but that's doubles, and the green die, the off-colored die, is a 3, so you now have 3 stunt points. And stunt points are used to do extra things that can be free actions or whatever. You can save them or hold them or, use them later, or you can use them for that to do stunts. And stunts are where things get really interesting. There's all kinds of really stupid things actually that you can do. Let me see if I can find the list of stunts that it's absolutely ludicrously bullshit. Combat stunts. Here we go. Stun points. 1 stun point you can spend to immediately reload a missile weapon. Usually reloading like a bow or a crossbow or something takes a standard action. 1 stun point you spend, you can just immediately reload. Let's see here. 3 stun points. Lightning attack. You can make a second attack against the same enemy or a different one within range and sight. With a ranged weapon. Does not cost an action. Lethal blow. You inflict an extra 2d6 damage on your attack, which is quite a bit. So there are just things like that. There's also stunts that can be generated for roleplay. There's because you have to when you're trying to convince the king to do whatever it is you're doing. You also have to roll for that, and you can get stunts that apply to that. There's things like let's see here. What's a good one? 3, stun silence. Whenever you make a roll for A roll for acting or speechcraft. You may spend 3 stunt points to do stun silence. Stun silence. You are so impressive that you leave all those who witness your display completely dumbfounded and unable to speak for 15 seconds. Outside combat, this lasts at the very least long enough for your character to begin doing something else. So like it's a really neat system that instead of having crits, which is either you roll a 20 or a 1, now you can do things that are not as powerful as a crit, but they happen whenever you roll doubles with 3 dice, so it happens statistically more often. So it's a really neat system, and this is the same dice system they had in the Dragon Age tabletop. It's the same system they had in Titan's Grave that Will Wheaton did that video series for. And it's very interesting, and I like the idea of, while it's simple and like much simpler than other role playing systems, there's a lot of potential for complexity, but you don't have to go out and buy your $80 set of die. You just go and you go into the backgammon set that's in your grandma's closet, and you grab her D6 and steal them before she notices.
Yeah. Yeah, and before she's just... Okay, I was gonna say a joke there, but it's not that funny.
So that's... I mean, I could go on and on and on about this game for another, hour or so, but I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is say that I have linked in our show notes, which you can find, of course, in the description box in our YouTube videos, as well as all of our social media posts for each episode. I have linked the Green Ronin online store, where you can, if you so choose, though I encourage you to, purchase any of their products. I will note at this point, at the time of recording this, the physical copy of Blue Rose and the Narrator's Kit, which is basically the Dungeon Master Starter Kit, are both on pre-order. So if you are the kind of person who doesn't like pre-ordering things because, you're that kind of person, I will say that those are still marked as pre-order items because they have not finished manufacturing them yet. But I would recommend, if you are that kind of person, definitely giving a consideration to getting the PDF version of Blue Rose, which is $24.95.
And you can get it right now.
And you can get it right now. Yeah, if you buy the PDF version, you will receive it immediately. It is already, the book is finished. They're done. The physical copy is not finished printing yet, but you can get the PDF copy right this second, and it's only $24.95. So, if you are the kind of person who doesn't mind pre-ordering things, you can do the whole pre-order the physical copy and get the PDF for $5 if you want. But it's an option for you guys.
Cool. Well, I'd say that I like this, not necessarily particularly because of the game. I like the concept behind it because it doesn't try to change something that already exists in order to appease a group of people. I love projects like these because instead of trying to take over and modify or appropriate something that already exists, they're just like, we'll do our own thing, and I'm totally behind that. I am really interested in the play system, especially with the dice and stuff. I'm gonna have to show this to Dan and Josh and see if they're interested, because I definitely kind of want to check it out. And I can find people who are interested.
I will say this, like I said, it is a narrative and roleplay focused game. It's that's the main thing. It's not a combat focused game. And I do want to make that clear to people who are listening, because there are people who don't like roleplay, and that's fine. There are games for you, and I highly encourage you to play them because they're fucking awesome. But there are also people who are really into roleplay, and there is a huge subset of female tabletop fans who are more interested in narrative than in combat. This is the game for them. So I want to put that out there. This is a narrative-focused game. that is why I like it, but it's like not everyone will like it.
I will say I do kind of like the role. I am kind of interested in the roleplay aspect just because I'm sort of like a roleplay griefer. Because I'll like the last time I played D&D was 5th edition, and I kept like talking to the dungeon master and trying to we like just started the campaign, so we were still in the tavern, in the pub, and I kept trying to romance NPCs. I was a bard, and I kept trying to just instead of like paying for stuff, I tried romancing every time.
That kind of player. This game has a set of mechanics for you to actually do that.
In a comedic way, because when you talk about romance,
whether it's comedic or not depends entirely on the person running the game. I think that's an important thing to note, is that there are all kinds of game systems out there, but there are a billion ways to use any one of them individually, and it depends entirely on the people playing and the dungeon master.
Yeah, just if you're on Tumblr, sometimes you'll see like a D&D related comic that gains like a ton of notes, and then you read it, it just looks so stupid. You're like, how could this possibly happen? Yeah, that totally does fucking happen. Like, what was the one comic was he like a half orc rogue, and the player actually rolled like a 20 for charisma, and just completely like left the guard totally smitten. And it was like the guard, there was absolutely no way they could get past the guard, but he just happened to roll a 20 on charisma, and the guard is just like, just go.
It's go. Even funnier because orcs have stupidly low charisma.
Yeah,
the only way that would have worked was if he had rolled a crit.
Yeah, he rolled a crit.
Because a crit is an automatic success.
Yeah, he rolled a crit, and it's just like, it was like the most. It was the most stubborn guard and like the worst race to do charisma with.
You could be a gelatinous blob, and if you rolled a 20, you could get the queen to fuck you.
Speaking of which, I just perused the Steam storefront, and I found out that Necopara Volume 3 is out. And I'm looking through the screenshots, and I'm like, it's like the previous two games, except their titties are bigger.
Their titties are bigger.
Yeah, have you seen the screenshots? It's all the same characters, but their boobs are bigger.
Clearly, they've just gotten older.
Yeah, instead of like 6 months old, they're all year old now. That was like that was like the most creepiest part of Necopara. It was like, yeah, these girls, they're cats. Okay. Yeah, they're like 8 months old. Uninstall game. Okay, that takes us on to my thing, which is it's just pretty quick, but so Ubisoft has announced a new Far Cry game. There was hints and rumors coming out about exactly what it was. One of the first leaks was that it was a Far Cry game that was going to be set in Montana in the United States. So people kind of assumed that it was going to be like a Western, which immediately got people hating on it because it was just like, oh, they're trying to compete with Red Dead Redemption and stuff, and people speculated, like they do, and then more information came out. Well, and then they officially announced it, and Far Cry 5 is sort of like, I feel like it's really trying to call back to Far Cry 3 and the success that Far Cry 3 had in its narrative and its characters. you play Far Cry 3, so you know
Yeah.
like the one character Voss, or what was his name, Voss, or
Bus.
yeah, Voss, the crazy guy. People really like that, and so with Far Cry 5, what we know so far is that the setting is it's in the fictional Hope County, Montana, where a cult, and it's implied that it looks like it's implied that it's a Christian cult, has come in and sort of taken over the county and established their own theocratic dictatorship. And you're part of it. And it looks like you're either like a mercenary or you're a federal agent who's come in to basically shut them down because they've taken over the county and they've like kidnapped people and they're forcing people to convert or be executed. Tons of people have died. So this county in Montana is basically just held hostage by this Christian cult or implied Christian cult. And so you're coming in as like a federal agent to take it down, and assuming it goes with the Far Cry formula, you're going to get separated from the rest of your people and you're pretty much going to be on your own. There's probably going to be hunting. There might be towers because fucking Ubisoft and they're hard on for large phallic towers. And just sort of sounds like it's going to follow the Far Cry formula, which is very formulaic, but it's a formula I do like. I do enjoy. I really enjoyed. I loved Far Cry 3. I had fun in Far Cry 4. I didn't get Far Cry Primal. I should probably pick that up sometime. But it definitely sounds interesting, and it sparked quite a bit of controversy. And there's like no like white and black to it. There's so many shades of gray to this controversy. There was the most obvious one. It's like people feel like this was an attack against Christians or against gun lovers. There was criticism, complaints about that, whining about that. Actually, what was funny was what caused the most controversy was the artwork that came out. That's probably gonna be the box art for it. Which have you seen it yet? The Far Cry 5 artwork.
No, I haven't.
All right, well, let me send you it really quick. I'm trying to look at because it's like it looks like it'll look really good as a poster. So I'm trying to find the full image. There we go. That's a good one. It's on the French side, but we won't hold that against them. Ubisoft is French, so that kind of makes sense. Well, let me link it. Why won't you let me link it? Let me link it, fucker. Anyway, it's basically just great, now it's playing all this music. It's made to look like the Last Supper, where it has all of the what looks like all the bad guys up front and center. And okay, good. I got the image. Good. Let me link it to you. So yeah, this is where people are really getting the whole like, oh, this is an attack against Christians because these are obviously this is obviously Christian cults. You have the leader there in the center, sort of being portrayed as Jesus, and then you have all of his cohorts there. There's a bear in the background that looks like it was photoshopped in. You got somebody up front with the word sinner carved in his back. So what I take from this image is that it's making it plainly clear that this is an area that's been taken over by a very fanatical religious cult, who intends to sort of create their own nation through terror and violence. And that's kind of what I got from it. And so, yeah, people feel like this is either attack on their religion or because of the heavy prevalence of guns. You know, you got lots of heavy weaponry there. There's some cows there as well, though I don't think cows are a weapon. Though they could be. I mean, depending on how the physics are. But it also got some controversy because people saw the cover art. I guess I don't know what they were thinking, but there's some people on Twitter going like, "Oh, great, another AAA game that's just full of white people," and they posted a link to the cover. I'm like, okay, do you really? Are you not understanding this cover? Do you really want this? I mean, do you really want this?
I have several questions. First off, did you link this picture in the show notes? Because I would like you to.
All right, I'll link it in the show.
It's an amazing picture. Is this the actual cover art, like what's going to be on the box of the game?
Yeah, it's going to be cropped, obviously, to fit on a box. But yeah, this is like
it looks official, like it looks like they're going to make this the whole insert. So when you open the game all the way and you flip it around and look at the back of the box, it just has this whole poster. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's an incredible poster.
Can I just say my favorite part of this entire picture is the guy immediately to the right, our right of the guy, the center piece of the picture, the guy in the center to his left. The guy with the knife, and he's just had it stabbed through a piece of raw meat that's just sitting on the table.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Like, that's my favorite part of this picture. Also because he has the most hilarious hair, too.
And he also looks the most concerned. It's like he's like closest to the cult leader, so you think he's like, he might be his Judas. If you look at the expression on his face, he kind of has a look of concern. He might be if we're looking at this as the Last Supper, that might be his Judas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very clearly meant to emulate the Last Supper. I mean, the poses and everything. I mean, he's holding the knife too. That's what makes it so funny, is that in the Last Supper, you know how there's the hand holding the knife, like right there, except this time it's stabbed through raw meat. I find that hideously hilarious.
But yeah, the part I love is just off to our left. Walking through the great gate is a very, very angry bear just approaching him.
It has clearly been photoshopped in.
Yeah.
I'm in love with this box art. This is because one of the things I know a lot of people, ripped on Far Cry games because they had these, what people would perceive as these racist interpretations of other countries. And, like, what I was saying about that earlier was, like, okay, maybe you're right. They are portraying natives of these countries in not-so-favorable lights. Well, wouldn't the best way to balance it out be to, like, do the same thing but with America? And, like, literally that's what they've done here.
Yeah, and something I like to point out there, and it's actually something that Boogie pointed out, is that, obviously, because like Far Cry 3 was set on a Pacific island, Far Cry 4 was set in a country in the Himalayas, so naturally, like, the people there will be ethnically of that region of the world, and while the villains were like, not white, they were locals. You also got to remember the people you're helping, your allies were also of that area as well. We're also not white, so it's like you could say that it's racist, but not really, because it was obviously you could say it's racist in that you're coming in as like the white savior, and especially so with Far Cry 3. I don't buy that with Far Cry 4 because you were a second generation American American. Your parents came from that country, and you're bringing the ashes of your mother back.
Here's the only way that they can literally make this game better is if the character that you play is is an international espionage agent from Europe of like Chinese descent or something like that. And you have to parachute in and save the dumb Americans from themselves. Like, oh my god, that would be so funny.
Yeah, so obviously in this game, you're basically because it's pretty obvious these are all Americans here. This cult is full of Americans, and they've come into this county in Montana, and they've captured and kidnapped and murdered other Americans. Again, like I said, they're basically trying to establish their own theocratic state, and they're purging all the infidels and non-believers. What you were talking about with the main character, it's all we know about the main character is that they are a federal agent, and you create your own character.
Oh, so they're okay. That's fine too. That's fine too, because now they can be a federal agent, and I can make them a Native American. In my head.
You can make it, from what it sounds like, you can make them whatever you want them to be.
Can I just say that this looks like as a video game everything that the film Red State was.
A lot of people have been saying that this looks a lot like Red State.
I am now more excited for this game than I was before. So I didn't really like Far Cry 4 that much. I wasn't a big fan. I really enjoyed Far Cry 3, but I didn't really like Far Cry 4 that much. And when this was announced, I didn't really look at anything for it. I was like, oh, it's another Far Cry game. I'll probably play that at some point. But now that you've told me what it's about and shown me this picture, I'm actually really excited for this game. I really want to play it now.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing a lot of stupidity from all sides. You're seeing people on the right complaining that this is an attack against Christians and an attack against gun lovers, and then people on the left saying there's why is it all just a bunch of white people again? It's just yet another AAA game that's full of white people. It's like, okay, first off, do you really want to die on this hill? Do you really want the cult of fanatical Christians who are killing and murdering people and generally being psychotic assholes to be diverse? Wouldn't you rather them be all white? Wouldn't that fit your narrative of the white devil? Yeah. Is this really the hill you want to die on? And you got a couple, and you got like a couple very special people, especially people like Bob Chipman, aka Movie Bob, being really excited for this game because it's like finally a white genocide game, and I'm like, if it came from anybody else, I'd say it's a troll, you're trolling, but I'm not. I think you really are excited about this because you are that fucking loopy. It's like, you complain about every other game being like, a genocide killer game, and now you're excited because it's a race you hate. Oh, all right, awesome, good for you.
You fucking kill those white people.
Yeah. Guess what? This is a game where you get to kill white people. Good for you. So, I was initially really skeptical of this game because I'm kind of sick of Ubisoft shit just in general, but this actually does have me excited. Which means I'm not going to pre-order it because that's dumb, especially pre-ordering anything from EA or Ubisoft or Activision. That's just don't do that. Don't do that. But I will definitely keep an eye on it, and I'll probably check it out. I'll definitely get it on sale. I'll definitely get it on sale, and I'll go kill me some fucking Christians.
I'll probably be oh my god, dude! If all I can think of right now is that scene from Kingsman.
Oh god!
The one with Freebird.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so fucking intense.
Oh my god. That's such a good movie.
Yeah, Kingsman was a good movie. Red State was fucking terrifying. Red State was fucking scary.
Red State is one of those movies where, like, dude, this probably could totally happen.
Yeah, it was both terrifying and funny in a very, very dark way. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the way things resolve is just so sickly and darkly funny.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. Go watch Red State.
It's funny in the sense that there's a lot of irony, but it's not happy, funny irony. It's just funny kind of irony.
Yeah, it's just like you're just like, oh wow. Yeah, I'm looking at this image and there's like a bowl of peaches there. I'm like, peaches don't grow. They don't grow peaches in Montana. Where the fuck did he get those peaches? Meanwhile, I'm completely. Oh, wait a minute. Oh shit. Okay, that dog. Okay, I thought that dog was decapitated. That wolf was decapitated. It's not. It's literally standing up at the table, staring at that fucking.
Oh, those are paws. I thought it was decapitated too.
Yeah, I thought I was like, oh, the poor puppet. I was like, no, the dog is just the dog. The dog is an NPC. So yeah, Far Cry 5. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out. You know, and probably check it out on a sale in like 2 years.
Yeah, I'll most likely be buying a used copy for PS4 if it comes out for PS4.
Oh yeah,
most likely
it's yeah, it's Far Cry. It's gonna be coming out on all systems except probably Switch. I doubt the Switch could handle this. So, yep.
All right. With that, we move on to our cool shit segment, which I will start us off with, as I do most weeks. As always, you can find all this stuff in our show notes. My first piece of cool shit this week is a YouTube video of a guy who homebrews a Persona 5 Android phone theme. Now, I just got a smartphone for the first time in my life.
Let me just say something really quick. You told me the model numbers, so I went and looked it up. It's kind of telling that all the reviews I saw for it were from Indian websites.
I got the shit tier Samsung model. I have a Samsung J3. It's not bad. It does the job. It does what I need it to. And no more. And it was also really cheap. So that's nice. But anyways, this video is a guy who he uses a app that you do actually have to purchase from the App Store for like $3 called KLWP or KWLP, which is a app that lets you finely tune live wallpapers by creating animations and programming them and stuff. He uses this app to take two different themes that Reddit users had made for Persona 5 and sort of cuts things out of one and pastes them into another to make this really, really, really neat phone theme that I have actually just recreated on my phone. It is phenomenal. Complete with ringtones straight from the game, because you have your phone in Persona 5 that has ringtones. So it's a lovely little thing. He also gives a shout out to a guy right now on Twitter who's trying to make a reskin for the Messenger app on Android that makes the Messenger app look like the instant messaging system that the characters have in Persona 5. And it looks really cool, and I'm actually really excited to see if that guy actually finishes that project, because I will most likely be using that, because it's fucking awesome looking. I gotta say, it's fucking awesome looking. The video I've linked is just him showing off the app. There's another video on his channel about a day later where he gives an in-depth explanation on how to recreate what he did, which was the video that I used to follow.
Yeah. Well, I found that whenever because I used to have an Android phone, and I usually I don't know how it was for you, but when ever I root an Android phone, it ended up being like an all-day project for me because something would go fucking wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming it was the same for
It
you.
was about 2 hours.
Yeah, for me it was just like, okay, 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 my drivers don't look like that. Where the fuck did I go wrong?
Yeah.
I wanna find the answer, but I don't wanna ask. That's I think that's how most people try to fix things. It's just like I don't want to ask. Let me just hopefully find the answer somewhere.
All right, why don't you hit us with your first piece of cool shit this week?
All right, my first piece of cool shit is a podcast called GM Word of the Week. It's a podcast about basically general tabletop gaming, but you can actually use the information they provide in any kind of world building. Whether it be it's focused on D&D, but you can use it in other tabletop games, other systems. Also, you could probably use it in writing or video game. If you're making a video game. Basically, what they do is they take all the big fancy words you hear in gaming, like alchemy or quicksilver or myconid, catacomb, labyrinth,
Mithril.
Mithril. just all these fancy words that you don't really know a whole lot, like website. And they tried, and he gives you the etymology, he gives you the history about why this thing is called this thing, and and he does it so that when you're building your game, as long as you have a knowledge of what these things are, you could hopefully make a better game.
Oh, cool. Helps you do a little bit of world building based in factual knowledge.
Yeah. So you're not misusing words, or you can make it's like instead of saying, "Oh, yeah, that that cave under the city full of bones," instead of that, you just say the catacombs. This is a podcast that helps you make better games. And like I said, while this is geared towards D&D, you can use it in just about any game. And you can even go as far as using it in writing, or in writing a video game, or writing a story, or what have you. Just really good. It's just a really good, informative podcast. So I guess on to your second.
All right, my second piece of cool shit needs a bit of a backstory. There's a phenomenal series on YouTube known as Critical Role. It is a video web series hosted by Matthew Mercer, who many people may know as a voice actor for a variety of roles in anime and video games, most notably currently McCree from Overwatch.
Oh yeah.
And where he is the dungeon master.
He's gay.
Yeah.
That's what the internet told me. He's gay.
He hosts a web series where he is the dungeon master of a group of his voice actor and voice actress friends playing D&D. That's not what my cool shit is, though, but that's the backstory for it. My piece of cool shit here is a video on the channel of Jesse Cox, who, if you don't know, Jesse Cox is a fairly popular Let's Play YouTuber. But he managed to get his hands on a copy of part of Divinity Original Sin 2, which is not out yet. Which is, I played the first Original Sin. It is really good. It's a very good game. But they've added a new feature in Original Sin 2 known as GM mode, which allows you to take all the assets and the world that the game has and build your own campaign from the ground up. Letting one player act as the game master in a traditional dungeon master sense, and then you get to create your characters as normal and play the game. The person who is the game master can, in real time, on the fly, speak for the characters, create NPCs from nothing and place them randomly around the world and give them dialogue options, create items to give to players, make puzzles, create locked chests, and so on and so forth. Basically, they give the GM in this mode literally the power to be essentially a pared down developer of Original Sin. Complete with dialogue modes and everything, and it lets you build a campaign and then run it as you would a traditional tabletop, with the added benefit of there being the characters on the screen with all the spell effects and all the music and everything there for you. GM mode is not letting you play Dungeons & Dragons so much as it is letting you play a Dungeons and Dragons-like game in the Divinity Original Sin 2 setting. So the video that I have linked here is from Jesse Cox's Let's Play channel, where he and several other YouTubers got to play around for about 2 hours with this new mode they've added in Original Sin 2, with Matthew Mercer acting as their dungeon master. And I have to say, like, I was pretty excited for Original Sin 2 to come out because I really enjoyed the first one. I am now more excited for this game than ever before, because GM mode looks fucking amazing.
I bet you're also excited for other things.
A variety of things. Yeah,
I could think of a couple involving some undead. I've heard those stories plenty of times about you and the undead.
Me and the other Divinity games, of which we will not speak at this moment. I did a whole fucking episode on Dragon Commander, dude. Remember that, dude? That game was so good.
That game's still good.
Yeah.
So it's so good.
All the skeleton titty.
Skeletitties. Oh god! I just remembered another cool shit I want to do. Oh, I'll have to save it for next week. Okay, my second and final cool thing is a YouTuber okay, I'm not actually sure where the fuck he's from. He's either Korean or Chinese, or he might just be British, Japanese. I am not sure, but he is not he's not native Japanese, but he is living and working in Japan. He goes by the name Nihongo Gamer, and I really enjoy his videos. He does really quick videos just about a lot of different things. He's actually the one who his videos about the iPad Pro convinced me to get an iPad Pro for drawing. And he does quite a few videos on drawing, and also just like on he buys and reviews tablets. So he's like bought like the Microsoft Surface tablets. He's bought iPads, and he's used them. He's drawn with them. He's basically just a vlogger. He vlogs about stuff he buys and stuff. But he talks about like just living in Japan, living and working in Japan, getting games in Japan, doing unboxings. It's just for some reason I just really enjoy watching his videos. Just how. Just talking about, again, just living in Japan and doing shit in Japan. Yeah. That's
his the if you go to his channel, the video that's linked on his homepage, the one that's embedded as the first video you see on his channel, is hilarious. It's him unboxing a Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah.
It's very funny.
It's very funny. Oh god, I'm trying to think of any video in particular that really stands out. Oh, the one he actually uploaded today, DIY in Tokyo for under $10, is fucking hilarious and also kind of informative. Because like the first part of this video is just like this, it's just like heavy metal music and him just bashing a strip of leather with a hammer. And then he goes on to explain that he discovered all these workshops in Tokyo, so he where he could just go and learn to do something. So he went to this leather workshop, and that's why he's bashing. That's why he's bashing a strip of leather with a hammer. So yeah, it's just he's a really interesting guy, and he lives in Japan. and he talks about living in Japan, and he talks about video games. And actually, you really like his Let's Plays because he plays all the titty games.
He plays all the titty games. Dude, I love the titty games.
Oh god, he did a Let's Play of the I forgot the name of it, but I just called it the Titties Platoon game. I think it's based on that Senran Kagura or something.
Oh, that's the one where you shoot them with water guns to make their clothes come off or whatever.
Yeah, I just call it Titties Platoon.
Yeah.
He did a Let's Play of that. That was a very weird video. Oh yeah. Also, a really cool thing is he did a video series helping you play Concol on the Vita. He's a really huge Vita nerd. He's an unabashed fan of the Vita. So that you'll probably already like him for that because he talks a lot about the Vita. So yeah, that's my second cool thing. And that brings us to the end.
It brings us to the end, which is always the hardest thing for us to do. So
I guess all I can say is go follow my shit, but be warned, I do a lot. I draw a lot of furry porn.
Titty.
I drew a titty.
He drew the titty.
I drew a titty on a dog. Bye.
Oh, let me stop recording. Shit.